Well, just like Manchester City, Chelsea had to travel to Championship opposition in the fifth round of the FA Cup. But unlike Manchester City, they did not struggle. 2-0 win for them. Goals from Pedro and Diego Costa. Your thoughts on the performance, Shaka?
Well, as much as we've been complaining all day long about Premier League sides, well, everybody making changes with the FA Cup, Chelsea no different, really. And wholesale changes at the back, yet they kept a clean sheet. And I think it showed that Chelsea have the best 11 in the league, hence their position, but their fringe players are also better prepared, seemingly, than anybody else to step in to those voids as needed and against lower league opposition. I have to say as well that, again, for all our criticisms of the FA Cup, Antonio Conte said beforehand that he wanted to give this tournament the respect that it deserved. And if his intensity is anything to go by, I think right now Chelsea are favourites to win the FA Cup and maybe add to what is an impending league title. It was a performance I think you can take a lot of heart from on a weekend where maybe some are scratching their heads.
There was an interesting flutter in the first half from Wolves as a former Chelsea youth player George Saville, who's actually won the FA Youth Cup, struck the post. It could have made it interesting, but there was so much consistency to Chelsea's play today.
There was, and yes, of course, you go to a championship team like Wolves, a good team in Wolves, with a stadium, a packed stadium, making a lot of noise. You expect, regardless of the difference between the league positions, let's call it between the two, you expect the home side to have their moments, and you hope to survive those moments. Came a little bit closer than I'm sure Chelsea would have liked, but they survived. I thought it was also telling that after the opening goal, a very good opening goal, Chelsea continued to dominate possession. They didn't take that for granted. They didn't sit back on their heels, and they didn't just allow this game to kind of play out. In the end, Diego Costa doubled their lead late on, and that was the final nail in the coffin. But Chelsea deservedly going through again, not just because of the step up in class or they're better players, but because I thought they managed this game better. They took this game far more seriously than anybody else in their position.
The last 4 FA Cup wins for Chelsea have come under 4 different managers. They love a League and Cup double as well at Stamford Bridge. I'll get an early thought from you. Antonio Conte for the League and Cup double?
Yeah, right now, I have to say, I think that's a very good bet. When you think of the others who are still involved, who you expect to be pushing for FA Cup to lift the FA Cup, Chelsea have no European football to worry about. Now, some of the others, we're not quite sure exactly how much longer there'll be European competition, but as of right now, Chelsea's starting 11 looks the best. Chelsea's fringe players look better than anybody else's, and they don't have those midweek fixtures to worry about, allowing them to rest, to replenish, and Antonio Conte to spend as much time as he can on the training ground. It's all coming together. It'll be a different proposition next year when they do have Champions League football to contend with, but for right now, they couldn't be sitting more perfectly.
OK, well, Chelsea, the 4th team into the quarterfinals, along with Middlesbrough, and the shock winners today, Millwall and non-league Lincoln. Keep it here at ESPN FC for more thrills and spills from the FA Cup. Championship high flyers Huddersfield Town taking on Manchester City just across the border. Yorkshire-Lancashire derby here in the FA Cup for a place in the quarter-finals. Is it the magic of the Cup or a game that neither side really wanted, Shaka?
Well, I'm not sure how much magic this cup still has. And don't get me wrong, Ross, I'm a huge fan, or certainly was a huge fan, of the FA Cup. When I played on it, when I played in it, growing up watching the FA Cup. But it tells a story when Manchester City make 8 changes to their starting lineup. Fair enough, you see. But Huddersfield Town, who sit 3rd in the Championship, make 7 changes themselves with a berth in the quarterfinals at stake. And like I say, I'm not sure what kind of story it tells. But both these teams, and in fairness to Huddersfield, who made these 7 changes and were at home, I thought they are the better of City. And it's only halfway through the second half where Pep Guardiola introduced Sané and De Bruyne that City looked a little bit better, but still, 0-0 probably did Manchester City a little bit of a favour in terms of the result. It doesn't do either of these clubs a favour in terms of the replay, who, as we mentioned, Huddersfield with one eye on getting into those automatic promotion places in the Championship. And City with the Champions League to come this week, and a tough test in Monaco, and a tightening top 4 race in the Premier League. I'm not sure who feels better about this replay at all.
Do you think it's going to be the same starting 11s when they come face to face, probably in about 10 days' time?
Yeah, I don't see how or why you change things. I mean, if you want to make the argument that, as I mentioned, Huddersfield are trying to get into the top 2 places in the Championship, and Manchester City have their eyes set on bigger prizes, I'm not sure why you change things. And again, this close to the final, you understand why the FA Cup is now met with some scepticism.
Yeah, well, Aguero had a decent game.
Well, he needed to, I guess.
and Huddersfield had a goal disallowed in the first half. But as we mentioned, 0-0, honours even, and they'll have to do it all again, which is not really music to the ears of either boss. It finishes in the FA Cup 0-0 between Huddersfield Town and Manchester City. 8 Premier League sides left in the last 16, all drawn against lower league opposition, and a roundup here of 3 results played out on Saturday, 2 of them big shocks, with the Premier League scalps taken of Burnley and Leicester. Congratulations to Millwall and Lincoln City from the non-league National League, the 5th division in England. That's the first side since 1914 as a non-league team to make the quarter-finals. What a shock.
It certainly was, and you're absolutely right. Congratulations to them. You saw the in-dressing room celebrations after the game, how much they enjoyed the scalp, how much they will enjoy being in the final 8 at a time, with a club that wouldn't have expected to be there. But now Burnley, who performed well in the Premier League, leaves you questioning the value of the FA Cup, or the perceived value of the FA Cup, by certainly, at the very least, the Premier League clubs. Burnley made 6 changes to their starting lineup. And let's be honest, as much as you play in lower league opposition, Burnley aren't going down. Burnley aren't finishing in the top 4. So I'm not sure why the need for wholesale changes from Burnley in a competition where it seems everybody else, or all the other big boys, Premier League clubs in the competition, are taking this rather lightly. But fair play to Lincoln City, who go through, and I hope they continue. They continue to keep that light shining. It tells a story. It tells a story of the importance of the FA Cup. Leicester City, on the other hand, defending champions, and this is one of those games, one of those times that Leicester are on a hiding to nothing. There was absolute, and it's tough to say, given the pressure that Ranieri was on. Them losing, you knew, was just going to pile that on, despite the changes that they made to their starting lineup. Winning doesn't do anything to kind of appease the criticism in terms of how close they are to the bottom 3 as well. So it's one of those that has added pressure to Ranieri, but you never felt it was going to get any better for him or Leicester City. It's one of those days, and I fear the writing may be on the wall for Claudio Ranieri as a result.
Out of the 4 ties we've seen so far, we should mention so far, there are other games going on this weekend. Only one Premier League team absolutely booking their place at the moment. That's Middlesbrough, with a late winner against League One Oxford. And that was a roller coaster, with Oxford coming back from 2 down.
Middlesbrough 2 up and cruising, and then Oxford. And this speaks to the beauty of the Cup. This speaks to that never say die, never feel defeated attitude that the FA Cup became famous for. And now all of a sudden, like I say, it's become almost a little bit of an inconvenience to some of the clubs who have their eyes on other prizes, whatever they may be. But eventually, Middlesbrough did get the winner, and it took them through. Now, Middlesbrough themselves, who are far too close to the bottom 3 for their own liking, maybe understandably, given that they're a newly promoted club, but I feel that results and performances like this, in a competition like this, can be the foundation of that survival push. I've been there with Portsmouth, where we've had good results in the FA Cup, and that kind of got the dressing room up and solidified. And as a result, in the end, we put together a decent string of results in the league and eventually stayed up. Now, I hope that Middlesbrough can use this to their benefit, because I feel too many other clubs have dismissed the FA Cup and its value outside of just reaching Wembley for a cup final, and much to their detriment at times.
Well, Middlesbrough are in to the quarter-finals for the first time in 9 years. Congratulations, though, mainly to our League One conqueror, Millwall. They've now knocked off 3 Premier League sides. Well done, Neil Harris and his team. Did it with 10 men against Leicester, we should mention that too. And also, special praise for Lincoln City. They've entered the FA Cup every single season, bar one, that it's been played since their formation in 1884. They are now in the quarter-finals for the first ever time. More drama to come here at ESPNFC.com.